I'm Mark Dorr. I know a lot of you teachers and administrators are having to deal with online teaching these days, so I thought we'd chat about that a little bit. Now, you have plenty of information available on the internet that can help you with specifics about things. I'd like to talk about some general points that I think are important. And really, if you're just talking about basic online learning, like I'm doing here, no bells and whistles. That's an American expression for no fancy equipment or fancy things that we do. Then these should help you a lot. Made some notes here about it. I thought first we'd start, rather than talking about ourselves, we'd talk about the students. Remember, when we talk about having classrooms, we talk about having student-centered classrooms, and how you need to think of it from the student's perspective. Well, certainly the same thing with online. I have another video out there about demystifying teaching, how when a student walks into the classroom it's all a mystery, and you make it a lot easier for the student if you take away the mystery. Well, it's certainly the case with online. They can't look to other students, they're staring at a screen, they're trying to figure out what's going on. So please remember that it's even more of a mystery to the student what's happening in the class, and you can make it go better by being clear about what's going to happen, what's expected of the student, why you're doing what you're doing, I think is important. Even if there is good tech, the virtual classroom is unusual, especially if neither teacher nor student is used to doing it that much. Remember, too, that the students often will have challenging situations at home. Now, I'm guessing that some of you teachers might have some challenging situations, too, right now, right? You're having to stay isolated at home. You might not be able to get out much. You might have a lot of family around. Well, it's the same for those students. It might not be easy for them to find time to be alone in a nice, quiet place doing their work, whether online or offline. They might not be getting the nutrition they need. They might not be able to get the food. And there could be tensions in the household. The thing is, at school, they have the immediate, unofficial support of their friends. Even if it's just looking across to somebody in the classroom like, is this what we're doing? Or what do you think about that? They don't have that. They don't have anybody to turn to when they're just staring at a screen. So remember, that's what the students have going for them to work with. Now, teachers, obviously, you have to kind of get used to some things as well. And some things that might help you are, just like in a quote-unquote normal classroom, you want to set your behavior expectations early. If they start to see that they can walk away from the camera for a while, or if they can do these other things or not show up, or others, that there are consequences, and you need to show them a framework that there are certain things they can and certain things they can't do, certain things they can say about other students and can't, that you have expectations about getting in work on time. You can make your students a resource. You can have them find topics. You can have them look up things and bring them to class. You can have them lead discussions even in class. But along that same line, you need to be very proactive about plagiarism. Remember, plagiarism is using something that somebody else said or wrote, created, as your own. There's a difference. At the end of this video, I'm going to show references that I've used, and that's indicating that I did look some other places to get some additional information. That's not plagiarism. Plagiarism is if I did this video and said I came up with all these ideas myself. Well, it's very easy to do online, and in an online world, especially without a teacher looking on. So make sure your students understand that plagiarism is not acceptable, in many cultures anyway. Also remember, sometimes discussions can either drag, and you might need to jump in, but you might also need to just let them sit for a while. beginning teachers are often very quick to jump in the moment that there's a pause in a conversation. And sometimes you need to let that go and let the students fill that void. You have to be the best judge of that, though, of course. Another idea is if you don't set kind of office hours, you will be a slave to all the questions coming in. You can do it however you want, but just be clear about it with your students. For example, you might set from 5 to 7 every workday. You will be looking at your inbox and answering questions from students. And if they send you a question at 11 at night or 3 in the morning or at 9 in the morning, you're not going to be looking at your inbox at that time. So they would expect that, and they would need to know something like that. You might have an emergency rule that if some student desperately needs it, but you start doing that, they can start using that a lot. You have to decide early on, what are you going to do about if students don't show up? How do you handle absenteeism? How would you handle it in the classroom? Make sure you have a backup plan. You know, sometimes technology fails. Sometimes the internet fails. Sometimes whatever you were going to have or talk about in your class fails. So it's always good to have a backup plan or a spare lesson or some bag of tricks like a lot of teachers talk about that you can pull from when you have an extra 5 minutes, you talk too quickly or something didn't work out. It's always good to have a backup plan. You know, students really do generally like to use the time online to talk. In some research that's been thrown around, there's about 30 to 50% of the time is how much the students really like to talk. And I would say you can promote even more than that, because in an ESL classroom, an EFL classroom, if it's student-centered, you want the students talking more and you talking less if you can. Just like in this video right now, though, in this case, I'm doing all the talking. So you have to adjust it however you can. Know the students' needs, as I discussed before, and what they might have particular need for assistance with. Also understand your needs. You need to take care of yourself. When you start doing online work, you can end up sitting for hours and hours and not moving. You can not tend to your health. You can kind of get emotionally drained. So make sure to drink some water once in a while. Take a break once in a while. Move your body. Get up and walk around the apartment or your house, or if it's okay, your block. Talk to friends. Watch a funny video with a cat in it. Something that keeps you happy, right? As far as teacher resources, there are many, many, many resources out there. I just wanted to mention a few. My good friend Svetlana in Kazakhstan just today reminded me about Mirror and Quizlet. Those are two wonderful options to help you in your lessons. You can also go to www.allearsenglish.com for free episodes that can be used. Trippin, TRIPPPIN.com. SimpleEnglishVideos.com. You can check your area's RELO office, Regional English Language Officer. Those people are wonderful, dedicated people who work all the time just to provide more resources for you. And I know in many areas of the world right now they are doing that, whether it's Latin America, Central Asia, Europe, anywhere. TESOL International, TESOL International, has amazing resources to assist you and help you to do better in this online teaching. You could go to Espresso, ESPRESSO English.net, and you can also go to espressoenglish.net/English-tips-blog/. And there's these little short, sweet little lessons that you can get a single concept with if you're looking for something like that. Breaking news in English is a wonderful thing. About every 2 days they come out with more videos that are related to current news, and you can relate it to news and have them watch news in English and then watch it in this breaking English, or I believe there's a news in slow English as well. EnglishFluencyNow.com. They have high quality, upper intermediate, and advanced things that you could use. Just a few ideas. There are so many more out there. I want to take a moment to address administrators, because just as you teachers are having to deal with challenges, the people who are in charge of you have challenges too, and a few ideas to help them out. When setting up your online system, it may be helpful for you to remember to give a few very clear guidelines for your teachers. Too many rules and people get lost, and they inevitably fail. If you can find a way to give your teachers a few clear rules, it probably will work out better for you. Once you do that, you've chosen to have those employees. Now you need to trust them. Now, people are different. Some people you do have to stay on to make sure they get things done. But in general, my experience has been that they tend to work even harder with online. And so in some ways you have to find ways to remind them to, hey, remember to take some personal time. You're in this for the long haul. You might have to do this for months. Let's find ways to keep this working, because you don't want them to have burnout. You don't want them to be working like crazy and then just crash and suddenly you're without a teacher or 5 or 10 teachers. So you need to think about that. How do you keep it going? Possibly the most important thing is to think about communicating. Related to what I just said, it's important to keep communicating with them unofficially. Send them a little email once in a while. Hey, how's it going? Not how are your classes and tell me about your students, but what's going on with you? Are you eating well? Are you doing okay? What's new with your baby? Those are important. Letting them check in with others. But it's important too, sometimes in these kind of environments, things can get bogged down with texts. Texts in this situation, if you have an organization trying to run, should only be for short and sweet things that don't require a lot of discussion, a lot of planning, a lot of creation. When it comes to that, then you need to get everybody on Skype or some other platform like that so you can all talk together. Now, when you do something like that, you need to make sure everybody feels very equal. So sometimes you have an administrative office where you have, say, a group of 10 people working, and then you have all the teachers out who are in their individual places. Well, in these discussions, these Skype or other discussions, if this group of people in the administrative office are all together and then each teacher is individual, it can feel intimidating. It can feel not particularly like they're involved, brought in. So one way to do that is, if you have the technology for it, is have all of your people at the administrative office on their separate computers in separate rooms. That way everybody kind of has an equal chance at things. I think that maintaining community, I think that keeping clear and few guidelines and supporting them, if there's any way to support people with any sort of tech issues, that's often an issue for administrators too. This can be a wonderful time to expand our abilities as teachers, and it can be a frustrating time. It can be quite an adventure for us, and we may all be just telling our grandkids about this years from now with some funny, terrible, incredible stories. Thanks. Have good classes online.